Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hey there, welcome everybody. Welcome to the show. Here I go. So this one has probably been a long time coming. Over the last year or two, especially, I've talked about how I'm expanding into other areas, investment, land deals, business, stuff like that. And, I've always had this strong business side to me. And what I mean by that is it's interested me, you know, um, lots of things about it have interested me. How some people do it and some people don't. Or I should rephrase that. How some people are good at it and how some people aren't. How some people really succeed in these areas, but yet sometimes don't necessarily make the same decisions that I would make, or make kind of obviously foolish decisions, but still do well, or what I would call obvious foolish decisions. Um, but off of that, I would say sometimes people make decisions that I wouldn't, and they do well. So I can learn from both sides, right? I can learn from people who make decisions that I wouldn't, and I see how they work out, and I go, oh, okay. They made a better decision in that scenario than I would have. But then also other people that are making poor decisions, and they actually are poor decisions, and you're like, okay, but their business is still thriving even though they're making poor decisions, because I'm seeing the detriment of their decisions, but yet they're still doing okay or thriving. So it's like you can learn from both sides. So this is the type of stuff that has interested me. Marketing aspects. Yeah, marketing is a tricky one because I don't like manipulation, which a lot of today's marketing is. So I don't like that aspect of it, and I don't participate in that aspect of it. But marketing has more aspects to it than that. So that and a bunch of other things, blah blah blah. So so this type of thing has interested me because I like dynamics. So I like looking at things and see why they work underneath. Like that's always interesting to me. It's how my mind works. So as I've been leaning into this, I've commented several times about in podcasts about how I need to become a different version of myself. I've been commenting that as much work and research and everything that I've been doing on these investment and business ventures, I'm doing even more work on myself. Okay. And that's what I really want to talk about. I want to talk about because I don't I know I share personal stories and stuff, but it's as an example of something. It's not because I want you to do what I'm doing, or it's not because I just want to talk about myself. It's just that I live these things in a everyday way, and that's important to me. And it's important to the information that I'm putting out. I don't want to put out information that people can't use in their daily lives to enhance their experience here better, because I believe that that's also the evolution of our soul becoming a better version of ourselves, and in all ways, you know, and that's why we're here. So I don't think we have to wait. I don't think we have to wait until we're on the other side to experience the benefits of what of the growth, the internal growth that we embody here. Like, so what I mean by that is if you are growing and becoming a better version of yourself here on earth, then your life should reflect that back to you. You should have a better, more abundant, enjoyable, loving experience here on earth. Now, it also evolves our soul on the eternal level. So when you're on the other side, you're going to be a more evolved soul too, because of the work that you've done here, which is a wonderful benefit. But we don't have to wait until we're on the other side to experience these benefits. If we're doing something right, it should be reflecting back to us in the way we feel and the way we experience life. So we should be able to get basically, i- immediate results, tangible results here on earth. If I don't think we're here to suffer until we get onto the other side. Like, no, we're here to grow and expand our benefits, and enjoy our life here. And through that process, yes, we do evolve in an eternal sense. So, st- so I guess that's one aspect. How like am I expanding myself into the business and investment worlds? Yes, I am, but it's not. That's not the end game. It's to evolve my soul and become a better version of myself. How do I know that this is the arena in which I need to expand? It's because it interests me. That's how. Like if I was supposed to be a wonderful painter, if I was supposed to expand my connection with the divine and my soul and express myself more through painting, well, then I would have an interest in painting. And I don't. I think it's cool. I'm very impressed by other people who paint, but I don't have that pull towards it. So it's not part of my journey. So this is part of my journey. And whatever is part of your journey is going to be different. So, don't get hung up on the examples that I'm giving. Look at the context of the example. Try to figure out how it can work for you. I'll probably be referring, I would imagine, I usually do. I imagine I'll be referring to my own experience and how this plays out in my life, but that's just, so you have a real life example of what I'm talking about and you can understand it better. You have to tweak it to apply to your life, right? So along those lines, as I was thinking about this podcast, I'm like, okay, how can people do this for themselves if they're newly introduced to this concept of what I'm teaching? Because I've been doing this for a long time in a lot of different areas. So, what I kind of came up with is AI sometimes, if you're into AI, if you're not, don't. It's not necessary. I find it helpful in certain situations, and certain situations I think it's the opposite of helpful. um so, and you got to be careful with it. You really, it's like I was just messing around with it the other day with something, and my mind, like, I see through things and look at the dynamics, and if something is off, I recognize it and I ask follow-up questions. And in so doing, I'm noticing AI is giving me false information a lot, and I keep catching it. So I'm like, I literally asked it. I was like, "Why, does my brain function differently? Why do I keep catching you giving me false information? I'm not hearing this from a lot of other people." And I've asked people, and they're like, "No, I don't experience that." And what it said was that basically what I knew about myself is how my brain works. I do when something is off, I can sense it and I ask follow-up questions for clarity, and in so doing, I catch it with the false information. So that's something I do, and it can make AI frustrating for me sometimes because I keep catching it giving me false information. But, um, so you have to be careful how you use it is my point. Just like anything, humans generally don't ask, "Should I?" They ask, "Can I?" They don't ask, "Should I create AI?" It's, "Can I create AI?" And then they create it, and then there's all kinds of flaws and problems, and people use it the wrong way, and it causes all kinds of problems. And some people use it for wonderful things too, that are using it properly, but it's kind of random because it's just out there. And some people will use it for good, and some people will use it for bad. Um, so we have to be responsible for our own lives primarily. But something like this, I think it's probably a good use of AI because you can just ask AI a question about intellectual, emotional, spiritual things, and it can kind of give you some bullet points in a structured way where you might not have thought of all these little aspects on your own. Maybe. And if you're looking at some of this stuff and it doesn't jive, then throw it out, man. Like don't trust anything outside of yourself, not AI, not other people, like not fully, not to determine your path is what I mean by that. Of course, we can trust other people sometimes, but it's just we have to discern. We have to be responsible for our own decisions. So, double check things, go with what feels right for you. So, that being said, I asked, and, I've been doing this for years. So, I thought I had a pretty good handle on what I was doing, but I figured I'd ask just to double check. And fortunately, I think I do have a pretty good grasp on the way I was coming at this and the way I was looking at it. But I asked, in what areas do I need to grow mentally, emotionally, and spiritually in order to excel in the investment and business field? Now, that's my question, right? Because that's where I'm heading. Other people might ask, where do I need to grow mentally, emotionally, and spiritually if I would like to move out of the town that I've lived in my entire life, if I'd like to end a relationship that I've been in a long time that's no longer working for me. Excuse me. Um, if I would like to start my own business or micro business, if I would like to change careers, if I would like to find a partner, whatever it is in your life, you ask about, who do I need to become? And this is the basic spiritual principle is we need to become the person that can be and do what we want to be and do. So, my example is I have of of course, I've had relationships here and there throughout my life, but as a general rule, I have been single. Even if I was dating, very rarely did I live with a woman. So like, I mean, I have had I have had experience with that, and I really enjoyed that, by the way, personally. It was good. I like that aspect of relationships, but I've spent a lot of time alone. And then, I woke up 22 years ago. So let's take a quick snapshot of that. And it's like, again, I've been alone most of the time. and I was the father. So, I had a son, I'm the father. So that means I'm in charge of the house. Um, I'm the breadwinner, so I'm in charge of that. I started my own business, so I'm in charge of that. Like things that decisions that need to be made, things that need to be done, those are my responsibility. So I need to do them. And of course, I'm going to do them my way because it's my life. So I'm very independent and very I don't want to use the word self-centered because that has a negative context, but self-oriented maybe. Like I'm in charge of everything in my life and I don't have to approve it with anybody. And I actually like I like having somebody to bounce things off of and to get their opinions and stuff like that. So maybe it's because I haven't had that as much as other people that have been in lifelong relationships. So, but but if I'm honest with myself, this is where I need to grow. Like if I'm going to be, most of my life is just done my way from my perspective. And if I'm going to get out into the world and be interacting with other people in other ways, well, there's qualities that I need to get better at that are going to help me in this area, so yeah, so this is what I'm talking about. So some of this stuff I think is helpful for the podcast, and some of it I think is just very interesting um, and helpful for the podcast in a different way. Um, so when I ask that question, which is what areas do I need to grow mentally, emotionally, and spiritually in order to excel in the investment and business field, what came back was mental growth, clarity, judgment, decision architecture, thinking in probabilities instead of certainties. You need to get comfortable making decisions where you can still lose, even if you were right. Um, Instead of asking just, is this a good idea? I ask, what are the odds? What's the upside? What's the downside? So I look at that and I go, "Ooh, that's good. That's the way my brain works anyway." See, what's kind of interesting is a lot of these things I'm already embodying. Which is probably why I'm being pulled into the business investment arena, because I already embody a lot of these qualities. It's how my brain works. So, of course, I'm going to be naturally pulled in that direction. Like we have God given abilities. Like the way my brain works is a gift, just like the way your brain works is a gift in a certain area. Now, like that's why I'm being drawn, because naturally I'm an individual, and the way that I was made and the way my brain works, I'm made to do well in certain areas, whereas other people are made to do well in other areas, so they embody different qualities. So if I'm being pulled in a direction, most likely I have a natural affinity and ability to do that. Okay, so some of this stuff I already embody just naturally, and then some of it I can see where I can tweak and grow a little because of maybe my past experiences. Okay, so this one I think I already do well. Separating signal from noise. News, opinions, hype, urgency, most of it is distraction. The skill is filtering down to what actually changes outcomes, what just feels important. That I'm pretty good at. I don't get caught up in the urgency. When my father taught me that many years ago in sales, and I see it in a lot of different other areas. If somebody's trying to make me come to a conclusion or make a decision or make a commitment on the spot, then that means they're trying to get me to make an emotional decision, and I won't do it. If something is a wonderful deal, then why would it be gone 24 hours from now? Why do you need my answer now? Why can't I have time to think about it? Why can't I have time to research it? If it's so wonderful, why are you forcing me to make a decision now in an emotional state without having time to look into it? That doesn't make sense. I'm thinking that you're hiding something. I'm thinking that you want me to make the decision on emotion, not on facts. That's why you're pressuring me to do it right now. You see, this is something that's another aspect of something that I'm already good at. Somebody else might need to work on that. Second order thinking. Most people stop at this looks good. You need to go further. What happens after this works? What happens or what breaks if this scales? Who is incentivized to act against me? Again, this is just how my brain works. I always go that extra level. That's why I'm always catching AI giving me false information, because I'm like, wait a minute, like, well, what about this? Like, you told me to do this, but if I do that 5 years from now, this is very likely to happen. And then I would be screwed because, like, yeah, I have, you told me to set myself up for something that doesn't have an exit strategy or backup plan. Like, well, and then AI is like, oh yes, you're right. You shouldn't do that because of that. Or if you do it, you have to put this in place to protect yourself from that. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, that's the way my brain actually works. So, but we'll get to other areas that I need to work on. Independent thinking under pressure. If your decisions subtly depend on consensus, trends, or validation, you'll always be late. Real edge comes from acting before something is obvious without being reckless. That's me. I'm not concerned. Like right now, I'm on the north coast of the Dominican Republic. There's already been huge business deals signed, multi-billion-dollar deals signed, multiple of them along the north coast. There's already been deals signed with the United States to stabilize the electrical structure already. Google's getting involved for a web hub or something. This whole area, like, I am positioned. It's not an accident that I'm here and that I'm going into this in this stage of my life. I'm at one of the best places in the entire globe for investments right now in this time in history. Like, that's where I am. So it's no surprise that this is opening up, so, like, and a lot of people don't see it yet. And a lot of people don't know much about the Dominican Republic. So I say it and people are like, eh. And that's okay. Like that, like, I don't, them going, because they're uncomfortable with the DR because they've never lived here and they don't know what it's like and they don't know all this stuff that I know and they don't have the connections that I have and all this stuff. Well, of course they don't see what I see. How would they? They don't have the same information. So when somebody is like, nah, I'm like, okay, cool, because I don't believe in pressure. So I'm not going to pressure them into it. And I like having people with a level of trust and open-mindedness where they can see this type of stuff, like I can see this type of stuff. And then you don't trust it. You look underneath it and say, okay, well, this looks really good or it sounds really good, but is it? And that's where your research comes in and you go underneath. See, this is so a lot, like I said, a lot of this stuff I'm already doing, which is good because I'm like, okay, I'm heading in the right direction. These are all natural ways that I am. Okay, now we go into emotional growth, stability, discipline, self-control. Okay, now this honestly is some of the area that I've been working on a lot because, like I said, everything is kind of done my way for the last 22 years. And even before, I mean, if we're being honest, I started living my own life pretty much around 13, 14 years old. It was, I just did whatever I want, whenever I wanted, however I wanted, and anybody that tried to control me just I wasn't afraid of consequences, so they were incapable of fully doing it. I paid a lot of consequences when I was younger, you know, but I didn't mind that. It was worth the trade for me. So like I've always been pretty very independent and living my own way, and which is wonderful and cool in many, many ways, right? But there's aspects of emotional growth that I need to get better at and expand on my tolerance levels and things like that when I'm out in high pressure situations or, high consequence situations and strong personalities. See, when a strong personality pushes up against me, they hit a wall, and the harder they push, the stronger the wall. And I need to get better at de-escalating that instead of trying to prove that they can't push me around. I was bullied a lot when I was a kid, so I learned that when somebody attacks you, you attack back 10 times harder. And you win like 90% of the time, if not more. It's just if you're willing to go further than the other person, then you win. And that was when I was in highly emotional situations, that was my go-to for a lot of years. Now, thankfully, over the last 22 years, I've done a lot of work on my inner self and stuff like that. But and in my everyday life, most of this stuff really just isn't an issue. Every once in a while, it'll bubble up a little bit, and I'll work on it. But as a general rule, it's my life is fine. I'm an adult. People don't really run around picking on you so much. if if somebody comes at me with that bully energy, sometimes I can snap back a little bit too sharply. So like even still, so this is something that I need to work on to expand my capabilities of being in situations that start getting emotionally escalated, where I need to be in control of my emotions and not allow them, because I'm a very emotional, passionate person. So I can't let myself just go with that in all these situations. Whereas most of my life I could, because it was just my life. Now I'm going to be interacting with other people more, and other strong, intelligent people that have strong opinions too. And you got to keep your emotions in check. But this, so that's some of the stuff that I do need to work on. When I look at back in the last 22 years, I'm like, oh my God, I've made huge strides in those areas, and I'm completely different than I was 20 years ago, and all this stuff. And it's like, yes, but are you really good at it yet? It's like, well, no, I can get triggered sometimes. It's like, okay, well, then there's your room for growth. So when you're doing this stuff, it's very important to be able to be honest with yourself. Okay, so I have to be honest with myself and say, like a lot of people will be like, oh, I've been working on that for 20 years. And they're like, oh, I'm much better at that. Okay, cool, nothing. It's like, whoa, 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 slow down, look deeper. Is there still room for growth in that area? Sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes it's not. So don't look at it just quickly and surfacely. You got to ask follow-up questions. You got to dig a little deeper, be deeply honest with yourself. Okay? So yeah, like I was saying, this I found really interesting, because when it got into the emotional growth, basically what it did is it started listing spiritual principles. Now, spiritual laws. So people that have followed me, I've said this many times, that if something works consistently and well, that means it's in alignment with a spiritual law. That's why it works consistently and well. Right? Like like people will think Well, I'll just use the first one. The first one is detachment from outcomes, right? How many times have I talked about that? Non-attachment to an outcome is a gigantic foundational spiritual principle or law that the entire universe works on. Y- like it's sometimes it feels like it's 75% of the work we do spiritually, right? It's gigantically important, right? And now most people they look at we're talking about not spiritual business. So bring our brains back to what I'm doing with this question. I'm asking about how to do well in business. And it says detachment from outcomes. If your identity gets tied to wins and losses, your decision making will get distorted. You'll hold losers too long, you'll sell winners too early, you'll avoid necessary risks. You need to care deeply about execution, but remain neutral about outcomes. Okay, now most people will look at that and they'll be like, yes, this is a business principle. It's like, okay, well, it's a business principle. So that means it's a principle. And if you use it in business, it works. Yes, that's what I mean. Okay, well, did you know that it's in alignment with a spiritual law and that's why it's a business principle? See, like I like going underneath deeper and understanding the dynamics and the why of things. So like that's what I find interesting because it's not a business principle. It's a universal principle. And if we understand the universal principles, then yes, they will work good in business. They will work good in relationships. They will work uh, good in purchasing a home. They will work good in any area, small or large, it doesn't matter. This is a principle that governs the entire universe. And if you get good at it, you will implement it in every single possible area of your life, and your life will get better because of that. It's not a business principle, it's a spiritual principle. It's just in this particular instance where we're manifesting it into a business scenario, but you can manifest it in any other scenario and it's going to work because it's a spiritual principle. Okay. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh my God, detachment from outcomes. That's foundational spiritual law. The next one is tolerance for uncertainty and discomfort. Spiritual law. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. That's part of the spiritual path. You have to have a tolerance for discomfort. You guys have listened to me. I've talked about these things over and over and over again. And then here it is in a business world, right? Now, how does it manifest into a business world? Well, tolerance for uncertainty and discomfort. There is no clean, calm path in business. Growth comes from operating effectively while not knowing, while waiting, while being misunderstood, while being temporarily wrong. Like these are so there's you need to be able to stay calm and okay even though things are uncomfortable. And I'm very good at that in a lot of areas in my life. Like it's how I live my life. I'm very comfortable being uncomfortable in probably 75 to 90% of the areas of my life. I usually experience it on close to a daily basis. It's just how I function at this point. However, if I'm being honest with myself, when the situation gets large and there are other variables, like other people perhaps trying to push my opinion or triggering me in some other way, then oh, okay, maybe I can get better at it in that particular area, even though I'm good at it in all other areas, right? So we got to be honest with ourselves. Most of the time, we're good at things in one area or another. And to oversimplify it, what I mean by that is usually we have work or business life and personal life. And those are two main areas of our life. And usually we're good at a lot of things. A lot of things that we need to be good at, maybe all of them, we're usually pretty good in one area of our lives and not so good at the other because they look different, but the dynamics are not different. They're the same. So if you're good, so like me, I'm good at getting comfortable being uncomfortable in my daily personal life. I'm very good at that. Okay, well, now am I good at that out into the business world? Ooh, well, there's a learning curve there. I could become better at it. Okay, cool. So work on getting better at it in that in the larger areas in the business world. Okay, cool. So that's one area of my growth. But I see that because I'm able to be honest with myself and I'm able to understand that, I'm not looking at it and going, "Oh, I'm very good at that. I do that almost every day. I'm very good at that. No problem." Well, yeah, but where's my follow-up question? Go deeper. Is that true? Is it in all areas? This is where you find the gaps. You can't just do this exercise. You can't do anything spiritually quickly because when you ask a question and answer it quickly, it stays on the surface. We have to look underneath to find these little gaps in which our growth is required for us to become a better version of ourselves, for us to evolve internally and become a new version of ourselves that's capable of doing whatever we want to do in the next chapter of our lives. Like I'll say Glenn 1.0 was until 35, and then Glenn 2.0 was until now. Like I have to become Glenn 3.0. So what does Glenn 3.0 need to work on to become Glenn 3.0? And this can be a tool in helping you see that. Uh, so the next one is ego management. Sound like spirituality? Ego shows up as needing to be right, overconfidence after wins, defensiveness when challenged. The moment ego enters, learning stops and losses compound. Okay, so now I look at this and I go, ooh, man, most of my ego died through my spiritual awakenings and all this stuff and blah, 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 blah. But then I look and I'm honest with myself and I'm going, well, we fall into unconscious patterns. Like I said, everything in my life has been up to me up until this point. And I'm a fairly intelligent person, I would say. So, does needing to be right, do I ever catch myself needing to be right? Not in a way where I need to be right and I'm a jerk about it, per se, but need to be right internally. Like sometimes I can be watching a show and be like, "That, what were they thinking with that scene? Why would they put that in? It doesn't even make sense with the story." Well, that's me being judgmental. That's me needing to be right. So living alone exacerbates some of this stuff. And from my past childhood and all that stuff, even though I've worked through 90% of it, defensiveness when challenged. I already talked about that. I can be defensive when I'm challenged. Now, does it look dramatically different than it did 20 years ago? Yes, I'm head and shoulders above what it is. But but does it still rear its ugly head every once in a while? It can if I'm honest with myself. So there's work that needs to be done there. But it's just hilarious to me that it brings up ego management, so another spiritual law. Well, I don't know if I would call it a spiritual law, but it's definitely in alignment with spiritual teaching. We'll just say that. The point is more important than the words. And then the last one in this section was patience and intensity. It says this one trips people up. You need to be patient in waiting for the right opportunity and aggressive when it appears. Most people reverse this. So what it's saying is most people are aggressive when waiting for the right opportunity. So what that means is they're like, oh, this one must be right. This one must be right. Oh, oh, I got to do this one. I got to do this is the right one. I got to do this, and they're not patient in it, right? And then when it finally does appear, and you do have the right thing, most people are patient. They're like, well, I I think it's right. Okay, yeah, I guess and they kinda get a little fearful because it's time to take action, and they're like, oh, gee, I've been looking for this. Now that I have it, I'm a little bit nervous," right? Whereas I look at that and I'm like, "Okay, I'm good at that, and I'm getting better." Like, this is the one that isn't so unconscious for me. Whereas, like, some of the defensiveness in particular situations can be a little under the radar, and I can get a little bit surprised with it. Like, "Oh, man, I just behaved defensively. Ugh, where'd that come from?" Right? So that might take a little bit more work, whereas patient and waiting for the right opportunity, like, I've been working on that consciously for years. I'm aware that that's how things work because to me, it's an aspect of spiritual reality. Like everything comes in divine timing. Even the aspect of me, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I'm doing more work on me than I'm even doing in the business. And I'm doing but quite a bit of work in the business areas, but I'm doing more work on me. Well, why? Well, it's because because I understand that I need to become Glenn 3.0 to be able to do well at this. So I'm focused on doing that. And in so doing, it almost gives me patience because if something isn't happening, like I had this big land deal all laid out, and I still do, it's sitting there waiting patiently, right? So I have this all laid out. I do all the work, and then I haven't found the right investors yet, so it's just kind of sitting there, and I'll put energy towards it here and there. But I'm being patient with it. My brain wanted me to get impatient. It wanted me to go, "You've done all the work. It's ready to go. Like, it's supposed to be happening now." And I'm like, "No, no, no, that's not how things work. Like, if it was supposed to be going now, it would be going now." So I just need to wait for the right investors. I need to continue becoming Glenn 3.0 in the process. Maybe there's something I need to get a little bit better at before this is going to come to fruition, because if I don't get better at it and it launches now, I would sabotage it somehow. Right. So I understand all that. So the patience, it's like, it always happens in the right time. It's not up to me. I trust, I have faith. Like this is going to be wonderful. I was born with a brain that worked a particular way for a particular reason. I feel the pull into this direction for a reason. Like it's not imaginary. It makes perfect sense if you know me and you know how my brain works and you know what I'm doing. It's like a duck to water. It's perfectly natural. It feels right, and it's going to come to fruition. It's just I have to be in alignment with the project or projects. I need to be who I need to be to accomplish this. So and the timing needs to be right. And maybe some investor needs to go through an experience that opens their mind a little bit more before they're ready to hop on board with this. I don't know. I'm not God. I don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but I know that when you're in alignment with who you are, it's going to come to fruition. Everything that I've ever walked towards has come to fruition. Everything. And when I was younger, it was dysfunction. I walked towards it and I got it. In the last 22 years, thankfully, it hasn't. It's been, being a good father, starting my business, helping other people. um, moving to a place that's peaceful. Like all this stuff, it's every time I've walked towards something, it's eventually come, and it usually comes when I least expect it, when I'm just lost doing the work. And then all of a sudden I become the right version of me that aligns with it, and boom, it just manifests. And a lot of times it manifests instantly. And people are looking around me going, how did you do that? Like that was like from the outside, it looks like I just said, oh, I want this, and it appeared. Well, that's not what happened. I'm continually working on myself. And maybe, people just saw it right before it manifested. But that doesn't mean I wasn't becoming the version of myself that I needed to be for it to manifest, by constantly working on trust and faith and peace and myself and all this stuff. Blah 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 blah. Okay, now it gets into spiritual growth, which is funny because all the stuff for emotional was spiritual. So I'm not sure if I'm going to go into this one. Um, But it does say this isn't about religion, it's about internal alignment. Yeah, true. Oh, it says alignment. I just noticed that. I've just been using that word. Clarity of purpose beyond money. If money is the only drive, you'll burn out, make short term decisions, compromise standards. A deeper why stabilizes long term thinking. Absolutely. Like all this business and investment stuff, that's not the end game. Like that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it to embody a more abundant life, but that's not that's not what I'm trying to achieve. Like the whole point of having an abundant life is where am I going with that abundant life? Like why? Why have an abundant life? Why do I want that? Why do I desire that? Why is that pulling me at this stage of my life? Well, it's because of what an abundant life means to me, what is important to me. So I nothing makes me feel better, or nothing is more natural to me than to help other people. If somebody like sometimes people will reach out and they'll say, "Hey, Glenn, you live in a DR. I'm thinking about coming over for a visit. Um, should I do that? When should I book it?" And I'm like, "Okay, great. Tell me what you want, because like I know this area and it offers everything. Whatever you want, it's got. But everybody's different. So, what type of person are you? Do you want to disconnect and stay in my casita up in the mountains in the middle of nowhere and just do nothing? Go swim in the river every once in a while, hike a mountain, whatever, but basically do nothing, completely unplugged and kind of a off grid type situation? Or do you like the beach? Do you like both? Would you like to split your time? Is air conditioning important to you? Like people in more developed countries don't know what questions to ask because they're so used to living their life. Now all of a sudden they come over to DR and they're like, "Well, wait a minute, I don't have hot water. What the heck's that all about? I'm not taking a cold shower. I'm here to relax, and that's torture for me." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know that." Like, so this is why I try to wrap my brain around what they would enjoy. What would you enjoy? What type of person are you? Some people want the no hot water and no air conditioning. Some people are like, well, no, I want beauty and nature and all that stuff, but I want to go back to a nice, relaxing hotel room with room service. It's like, oh, okay, then you should have that, But my point is I ask people, let me help you design your vacation. And it doesn't have to take 6 years to design it. It's just a few basic questions. Do you like the comfort or do you not? Do you want to spend time at the beach or do you not? Or do you just want to spend time in the mountains? Do you want to split it? Do you want to go adventures or do you just want to relax? Just basic general stuff like that. And then I can go, okay, how about this? Ooh, that sounds good. Done. How about this? Yeah. Oh, okay. How about that? Ooh, I don't know if I'd like that because you said it has this. And you're like, yeah. Okay, no, I'm not. Okay, skip that one. How about this? And I can put like in an hour, we can put together a vacation that's completely tailored to you. I enjoy that. I enjoy when somebody says, "Hey, can you do something for me?" Not all the time. When people are dependent on me, I don't like that because it's like my your life isn't my responsibility. Like I don't like that feeling. That to me that's not helping. That's just enabling people to not take care of themselves or to change their life for it to include something that they want. So I don't like that. But I do like doing favors for people. Always have. Just love it. Um, oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say before I kind of get off. So for me, the long-term thinking is helping other people. It's philanthropy. It's permanent change in areas. So like some people, throw money at problems. And don't get me wrong, I have no problem with making a donation here and there. I do that as well, but it's minimal because I believe in aligning with projects that will permanently eradicate poverty or a problem in a particular area, permanently eradicate it generationally. So it's no longer a problem there. That's what I like. So like this is why I'll connect with like one of the charities bringing clean drinking water. Well, not only do they build a place that produces clean drinking water and have the locals run it, but then they also have delivery services. So you're creating businesses that are bringing money into the community while giving people clean drinking water that can't afford it. Like, so and once that is built, it feeds itself, right? So you don't have to keep making donations to keep this thing going so people have drinking water. So, like to me, buying drinking water for people and giving it to them is a temporary fix. Is it necessary sometimes? Yeah, sometimes. But we tend to do that with everything. We just throw money at it. And then 100 years later, we're throwing money at it. It's like, well, why don't you just fix the problem? You know? Like, why buy something and give it to somebody if you know that a week later they're going to need more of it? Why don't you create a system where they can take care of themselves and they're not dependent on charity and their self-esteem rises and they have hope for the future and they build something that they can be proud of and participate in the unfoldment of their own lives and like that's what's important to me. So this is why I'm creating an abundant life. And of course, sure, I want to have some more experiences. I want to be able to visit family without thinking about how much it's going to cost or take people on vacations and experience things and stuff like that. Sure. But that I could actually even live without, quite honestly. I mean, I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not attached to it. What I really like is helping other people and eradicating problems. And along those same lines is there's a huge paradigm shift going on. So I want to create communities where like-minded people can just live a simple life. It's not that difficult. There's plenty of land, so we can buy little big chunks of land and then just have people just all you need is a little house. You can build little houses for 30 grand, 50 grand, and live the rest of your life there. Like with everything that you need, growing food and just kind of hanging out and relaxing. Like people could retire so much earlier than they realize, because thinking is conditioned by their environment. Over here you see a lot of different opportunities. So that's why I want to do it. My deeper why Integrity is a non-negotiable, complete quality that I hold dear. I I will not be I will not sacrifice my integrity for anything, and I'm confident in that. So I don't feel that that's an area I need to work on, but it's nice to see that it's part of what I'm doing and that I should hold it dearly. So that's helpful too. Awareness of self, patterns, triggers, blind spots. What situations make you reactive? Where you rationalize instead of think? Your default weaknesses under stress. Do you see how? See, this is what I'm talking about. These are the questions you need to ask yourself, and you need to get better in these areas. And I've already touched on a lot of the situations that I resonated with where my work is. So I'm not going to go over that again. We got to wrap up soon anyway. Detachment from external validation. If you need recognition, approval, or status, you'll take visible wins over correct decisions. You'll avoid moves that look wrong publicly. True leverage often looks unimpressive early. Yeah, I don't have to work on that. I'm good with that one. But again, I need to hold it in the forefront. So do you see this is what we're doing? We need to understand what is needed of us to become the new version of us, be honest with ourselves, to look at it. And this is part of my course that I just created on my website too, so you can look into that. But like, my point is this is to become that new version of you, to step into that new stage. This is the type of thinking and self work that you need to do. Okay, find things out about yourself. Ask this question that fits in your particular area. Now, and I think this is, I want to be light when I'm saying this. I think this is fairly safe to do with AI because you're not depending on AI. You're just asking it to ask you questions that maybe you wouldn't think of. And if it asks you a question that has nothing to do with what you're doing, just push it aside. That's fine. I mean, first I would dissect it because there might be something there that you didn't recognize. And that's the whole point of you asking a question, for it to bring things up onto your radar that you're not thinking of or seeing. So before you push it aside, really look at it and say, is this just something that I didn't realize was part of it? And I actually need to work on this, or does this not really apply? And be honest. So that's your exercise for today. Become the new version of you and have a long-term plan, hopefully to help people live a simpler life and a happier, more peaceful one. So, all right, that'll do it. Thanks for listening, peeps. I will talk with you soon, and let me know if you need me. Peace.